much, everyone who RSVP'd. Thanks to everyone for joining us here today. We're joined today by David Wilson, president of TRD, along with Tyler Gibbs, who is the general manager of TRD. We're going to start this off with some opening comments from David, and then we'll open it up to the group for questions. Please utilize the hand raise tool if you have any questions. We'll begin with 2 questions each, and then if you have more questions toward the end, we can see how much time we have left, so you can get back in the queue. David, we'll kick it off with you first. It was obviously a milestone weekend for Toyota and TRD, kicked off by Denny Hamlin's win at Pocono Raceway on Sunday, marking Toyota's 600th NASCAR victory, and then practically minutes later, followed up by Steve Torrence winning an all-Toyota Top Fuel final at Pacific Raceways in Seattle to earn the 200th victory for Toyota in NHRA action. What does it mean to Toyota and TRD to earn these milestones?
Well, let me just start by saying good morning to everybody. It's been a couple months since we've got together, and I'm glad that I appreciate everyone taking the time to chat with us. Yeah, in this business, the competition business, where we're competing almost every weekend in some form or fashion, it would be easy to just quickly pat ourselves on the back and move on to win 601 and 201 respectively, but that wouldn't be appropriate. Toyota, TRD, Toyota Motor North America, all of our plants, all of our dealers put so much into motorsport and a commitment towards NASCAR and towards NHRA is really considerable. Both of them, we are now looking at 20 plus years of competition, and it's important that we take a minute and to reflect on the journey that we've been on, but to think about the numbers that large is kind of difficult to put into words. Certainly, we're just extremely proud, and we've had such a great experience. We've not competed in any form of motorsport. If you look at NASCAR and NHR longer, and that just reflects just how important they are to Toyota. So I'm really happy that we're taking the time to recognize the achievement and celebrate with our team members and of course the great fans for both NHRA and NASCAR.
Great, thanks, David. So just as a reminder, if you'd like to ask a question, use the hand raise tool, and we'll get to you as soon as we can. It looks like we've got Roy first. Roy, go ahead. Oh, you're on mute.
There you go. Somebody put me on. Anyway, Dave and Tyler, when when Toyota first got involved, I think there was a little skepticism back in the decade, being that you weren't an American manufacturer, but that's quickly went away. I mean, you stand kind of alone. I mean, you stand on your own laurels out there today. That must make this extra special and to make the whispers go away.
Yeah, I appreciate you pointing that out, Roy. It was a polarizing entry for Toyota in NASCAR, 20 something years ago. What I'm super proud of is that we knew it was going to be, and we knew it because we talked to the fans well before we turned the wheel in anger, and we kind of understood what their concerns were. It helped shape our strategy in everything from making sure that we're partnered with the right teams and drivers, because we knew how important that was. We knew that the sport was driver centric. We brought 2 new organizations into the sport, and then of course in 2008 we partnered with none other than Joe Gibbs and his family. So all of those things helped us I think, overcome some of the early skepticism from the fan base, and so, fast forward 20 years later, I think by the respect that we've shown the fans, the respect that we've shown the rest of the industry, as you pointed out, we're just one of the competitors now, and you're still gonna have Chevy fans and Ford fans, but you got some Toyota fans too, and we're super proud of that.
Thank you.
All right, next up, Jordan.
Hey, David, appreciate the time this morning. Thank you. One of the guys it's got a lot of victories for Toyota over the years is Denny Hamlin. Denny, can you kind of discuss what Denny's legacy is with Toyota? And then also, we know that his contract is up with JGR. And is that a foregone conclusion that he's going to return to the organization and part of the 20 and continue on with both the 2311 side and the JGR side?
Yes. So let me start by answering the question that you didn't ask, but somebody will, and I want to be 100% transparent and celebrate this. But 600 wins, we all know who has the most wins, and it's none other than Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch has 203.
I think David hit his mute button.
You're muted.
Gosh, apologize. What I was gonna say is, first, I want to answer the question that you didn't ask, and that is who actually has the most wins for Toyota. And we all know who that is. It's Kyle Busch. Of course, Kyle just celebrated his 100th win for KBM. Most of those 100 wins obviously were in Toyota Tundras, but 203 out of 600 go to Kyle Busch, and that's across all three national series. As we talked about before he left, we will always celebrate the records that we won, the races that we won, the championships that we won together. I am not the least bit surprised in the fact that he's picked up where he's left off, and he's doing great things with his new partners, and we continue to wish him well. To Denny Hamlin, who is number 2 on the win list with 61 wins across Truck, Xfinity, and Cup, and of course celebrating his 50th Cup win, 47 of which were in a Toyota. Certainly Denny, plays a huge role in our family, and I think both Tyler and I have really enjoyed watching his maturation, and not just as a driver, not just as a team owner, obviously, because he's very new to that, but as a human being and as a person. And I'm really proud of that, because let's face it, 15 years ago, it was difficult to have a conversation about the weather with Danny while you're standing on the grid next to him. But he's come a long way. I know he put out his goal of 60 wins in the Cup Series. From my perspective, that is absolutely achievable, given his level of talent and his determination. To the last part of your question, Jordan, he will be back. There's no question in our mind. There's no question in Joe's mind. We're working through some details, and it's a complicated consideration, because now he's not just a driver for Joe Gibbs Racing. He's also a team owner, and given that there has to be alignment, for Toyota and Denny across both those considerations, just have some stuff that we're working on, but we'll get them sorted out, and we still intend. I know Denny has always wanted to and intends to retire as a driver from Joe Gibbs Racing and Toyota, and continue as a team owner with Toyota. That's certainly our intent, and we're working very vigorously to make sure that in fact happens.
And then the second question I have is, I presume you've heard Martin's public comments about how he's kind of weighing what to do in the future. I'm wondering, and he's talking about how he's kind of had to make this decision, sooner rather than later. But I'm wondering if he's afforded a little bit more leeway, if you will, because of the drivers you maybe have in the Toyota pipeline, like a John Nemechek, for example, where you can kind of afford him the opportunity to kind of run this out a little bit longer than maybe otherwise. Is that a consideration, or is that just not even feasible?
Well, to the first part of that, Jordan, I listened to an interview that Coach Gibbs gave to SiriusXM yesterday morning, and Coach was pretty candid in saying that he's happy to give Martin as much time as he needs. That's really a reflection on his respect for Martin, how valuable we view Martin in this partnership that we have. And you're right, Jordan, we do have a pipeline, and that's one of the reasons why we have a pipeline. And of course, in the background, as you expect, we're also doing a lot of contingency planning, because we have to be prepared regardless of what happens. We all know what we want to happen, but life isn't that clean and pretty in many cases.
Very good. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Next up is Bob.
Yeah, David, I want to say you have 7 Cup wins this year. So it's 7 wins in 21 races. So is winning a third of the races, is that acceptable number?
It's a number, Bob. We actually, and you guys have heard me say this, we set targets every year, and we, in round numbers, yes, our waterline is 1/3, given that we're one of 3 manufacturers. I think a more important metric is the playoffs, and in that regard, our goal is 5 Toyotas into the round of 16. Our goal is 2 Toyotas to Phoenix for the finale, and that's an aggressive goal. But I'm also proud to say that we're the only manufacturer, knock on wood, but to get at least 1 driver to the championship final every single year. And that is something that we're incredibly proud of. Back to the win count. Here's what I'll say is, we're not going to win the most races this year. That's clearly going to be Chevrolet. And we're not going to win the most races in truck or Xfinity. Now we're just past halfway. We could go on a hot streak, but the practical consideration with the numbers and the circumstances are just that. But what I'm awful proud of is Corey Heim is leading the truck championship right now. John Hunter Nemechek is winning the Xfinity Series championship right now. And Martin Truex Jr. is winning the Truck Series from a regular points perspective. And as I said at the outset, this is a driver-centric sport. Yes, we love to compete as a manufacturer, but that's certainly something with still a lot of racing to go that we're paying more attention to.
And the Richmond test next week, again, you have 1 team participating in that. I'm curious, A, do you feel like that puts you behind other teams if they go to this package? And B, with the addition of Legacy starting next year, would you expect starting next year, if on similar tests, you'd get 2 spots?
There's no one's ever happy with the limited testing, because we all recognize how critical that is. The testing before COTA this year and how well we performed there. There's been a couple of other instances where the testing played a role in our preparedness. So, that's something that we're always, trying to lobby for and play the politics right. And by the same token, we also recognize that NASCAR wants to make sure that there's some consideration given towards the B-level players. And so it's a dynamic, difficult consideration for NASCAR. By and large, I think they do a good job of managing that, and we do a good job of taking advantage of the opportunities that are given to us. Certainly, I've said countless times how important we think it is to broaden um, our position in the garage with and adding a couple of additional cars, and there's obvious considerations that go into that in terms of super speedway racing, right? And something that we're handicapped with 4 times a year. But there are other considerations like testing, like data, um, like having some independent thinking, some diversified, and more of a diversified approach. All of those things go into that strategy.
All right. Thanks, Bob. Next, we have Al.
David, Al Pierce. You spoke earlier about targets, numbers. Go back 20 years and tell me what TRD's target number was when y'all began. Did you ever think you would get to this level? Or did you even worry about it?
Well, oh, we worried about it, Al. But you remember back in the day, 2007, the number we were worried about was how many cars we would qualify to start the race. and 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 we almost missed the Daytona 500 back in 2007 with one of our partners, if you all recall. So it's hard again to think fast forward 20 years, and I as an engineer, I like the simple math of 20 into 600. I think that goes 30 on average wins per year for Toyota. And 20 years ago, and again, we were just racing in the truck series, but 2004, we had 4 wins. Our high water mark, and this just still astounds me, is in 2016, we won 49 races across all 3 national series, which accounted for, I think, over half of the total races that we competed in, across all those. So, you have highs and lows along the way. Again, we're not going to break any records this year in terms of total races won, but we're winning. We continue to put just solid partnerships and teams and drivers onto the track, and I like to think that the fans have come to respect that level of commitment that we have to the sport, year in and year out.
Thank you.
Thanks, Al. Next up, we have Kelly.
Thanks, Sam. Hey, David. Hopefully you can hear me all right. I wanted to ask about Ty, a first top 5 for him in the Cup Series on Sunday at Pocono. Ironically, or I guess coincidentally, coming when he made his unexpected debut last year. What have you seen from his development? He does have a shot to make the playoffs here as a rookie.
Yeah, I still remember the tough couple of weeks we had with Ty towards the end of last season. The difficulty, coming out of Martinsville, and I remember you all asking our perspective on Ty and how that concerned us, and what I believe we talked about is that we were putting our trust in our belief in Ty and his family, bottom line. And of course, he was met with some unimaginable tragedy shortly thereafter. But Ty, Ty has learned a lot, and I hope that's appreciated. The way that he races, the words that he chooses, because remember, as a young driver, he struggled with that, finding his voice in a genuine manner. And I am, forget about the on track stuff. As a human being, we're incredibly proud of how he has handled himself, professionally, genuinely, and and that to me is more important, because the on track stuff, we always knew he was going to be just fine. And I think that his level of progression this year has been terrific. It's certainly met our expectation, and heck, it would not surprise me if he doesn't have a win in him before we're done this season. He's obviously got some work to do to claw his way into the final couple of playoff spots. I believe he's 28 points back. Certainly achievable in 5 races. He's a heck of a road racer. We've got some good tracks ahead of us. So I appreciate you asking that question.
The other thing I wanted to ask is, obviously it was a big weekend for Toyota and NHRA, as well as you touched on. Coletta Motorsports obviously has had a couple lean years here, but it seems like the tide is turning. They've been sending cars to semifinals, final rounds. Can you just discuss how much work has gone into that program? Because again, it seems like they're beginning to turn the corner and go deeper on race day, which is important to try to get back to the winner's circle.
Definitely. And again, I'm glad we were able to talk about our experience and our participation in NHRA. Coletta, the Colettas, the family, the team goes way back with Toyota. They're one of the early adopters, and for any professional championship caliber team like they are, for them at the outset to take a chance on this partnership means the world to Toyota. And so, yeah, they have been struggling the past couple of years. Certainly intentionality in bringing on Ron Capps and bringing on the Torrances, the importance of that is it helped benchmark our other teams that maybe weren't driving. And it doesn't matter whether it's NASCAR or NHRA, having the ability to benchmark performance is critical, because sometimes you lose sight of where the goal line is, right? And I, I'll give a big shout out to Ron and to Steve and his dad, because they indirectly helped the Colettas, and directly from the again participation and partnership have helped the Colettas. So sorry about that. Travel day for me, so I'm at home. Anyway, we've got some terrific partnerships, and we're delighted that the Colettas are finding their speed again. Love seeing Dougie make it deep into the rounds now, and really believe that they're starting to turn around their performance.
Thank you, Dave.
Next up, we have Dustin.
Thank you. Hey, David, a couple things. Obviously, the things were already in play with Kamui before Chicago, before Shane wins that race. And with him winning that race, a couple things. I'm curious, has that sparked any more interest in NASCAR from your worldwide field of drivers? And secondly, with Kamui at Indianapolis, Shane back at Indianapolis, Brody Kostecki, Jensen, but I think people look at Indianapolis as being these guys are going to face challenges unlike what, Shane had the advantage at Chicago, and that there's going to be more maybe a realistic situation where they're not going to be as dominant. So does Indianapolis become an important race, that if there's this interest from worldwide drivers to show that that there's a lot at stake, in the sense of that these guys could still come in when maybe they don't have the advantage, like Shane probably had the advantage at Chicago?
Yeah. So just stepping back, Dustin, I think with, our teams and our sport, and, because NASCAR is participating in this, in these types of considerations by allowing some special exemptions from a testing perspective. So what Trackhouse, particularly has done, our offer and our commitment to run Kamui in a car, I think the return on that has probably caught us by a little bit by surprise, pleasantly, in that there's no question it's put some eyeballs on our sport, for the first time in many instances. Tyler and I traveled to Le Mans this year to help announce Kamui, and the reception of the fans, Euros, I mean, that really didn't know about this, and the participation that NASCAR and IMSA had from a local engagement. They had all of these, historic cars in here. The car that drew the most attention, and I'm not just saying this in a self-serving manner, was our Toyota Camry TRD, and the livery with Kamui, with Kamui's name across the door sill, because they know Kamui. I mean, he is a name and a face that is known. Obviously, he's, in Japan, he's huge, but in Europe, because of the penetration of WEC and sports car, he also has a name. So you pair that up with what Shane did in Chicago. Of course, it's not a surprise to us. Tyler remembers a text exchange I was having in real time with he and Andy Graves during practice. I was saying, this guy, he's going to be a handful on Sunday, right? And to me, what was as impressive as anything else, we knew he was going to be fast, because he's raced with us before in a Lexus on our GT program. But for him to master the racecraft, the unique NASCAR racecraft, it's pit entry, exit, pit stops, it's fuel management, it's all of those things that are still required to win any given weekend. That's a huge thing. So our hats off to Justin, his team at Trackhouse, and obviously to Shane and what he accomplished. But directly to your question, without a doubt, there is more interest. Without a doubt, Kamui's excitement, it's palpable, and I love, because you do this for long enough, there's a numbing effect, to be fair, right? But to see it through the eyes of someone like Kamui, who was in Chicago and was shadowing the team, and understanding the pace of a weekend, and to see him, get out of our simulator and come back from the VIR test with just pure joy and excitement. It reminded me, honestly, of when Kyle Busch ran our Lexus sports car in 2020. Being with him at Daytona, and him just seeing again the pure joy. And it was because it was a new challenge, right? I mean, Kamui is one of the best sports car racers in the world. He's not the best NASCAR racer in the world. He's never run a NASCAR race. And for him, as a professional, and again, seeing what we saw with Kyle Busch, that same feeling came back to me. This is what makes these guys so good, is because they thrive on a challenge. They thrive on measuring themselves against the best in the world. So, so for sure, in a prideful manner, I love the fact that it's bringing a level of credibility to NASCAR globally that we haven't seen, I think, arguably ever. And it's going to continue to build when you have guys again like Jensen Button and the Kimis and those legends get into these cars and not be the best. Now, to a more granular side of that, in looking at the venue of Indianapolis, honestly, hands down, we would prefer it to be a more traditional road course, a Watkins Glen or a Road America, if you will, simply because with a course like Indianapolis, we all know the challenge that's going to present and some of the turns and the congestion and what we've seen there in the past. And we could have a worst case scenario where some of these guys are out of the race, they don't make it to turn 2 on the first lap. Now, we all thought that could be a problem at Chicago, and look how good that was. And I think there is a certain level of, okay, we've been here before. Let's let's be careful and make sure that we survive to race lap 2. But I tell you what, I am looking more forward to Indianapolis than any other race on the calendar this year. Okay, maybe carve out Phoenix, assuming we got some horses in that race. But it's going to be great. We're going to have, I think, the largest global audience. We have top management flying in from Japan, some of them have never seen a NASCAR race. It's putting Toyota and the U.S. program and TRD USA on the map, and I'm proud of that. Hugely proud of that.
And David, in referencing Shane and Kamui, are they unicorns? I mean, how many of the, if there's more interest, how many guys really can come over? And it looks like the road courses are going to be capped at a certain number. Now, maybe you get Montreal on the schedule next year, and that may be attractive to some people as well. But I'm just curious, how much are these guys unicorns? How many people could come over and make an impact in this type of thing? Or was Shane lightning in a bottle, and people shouldn't expect that?
You brought up a really, really critical point and challenge, Dustin, because of course, both Shane, Kamui, they have day jobs. They have championships that they're running elsewhere in the world. And of course, those are all contractually considered. That's what they get paid to do. And that has to be their priority. As I said before, we didn't, Indianapolis wasn't our first choice for Kamui. Watkins Glen was. But the fact is, Kamui had a commitment in Japan that same weekend, and it was, he was contractually bound to that, and we couldn't ask him out of it. So right now, what we're seeing is a kind of a piecemeal patchwork. Hey, can we squeeze you in here, there? I think there's more effort that goes behind that because of the upside. Now, there's also a reality, right? Shane took a position, arguably, within Trackhouse Racing, right? What would have happened if Shane didn't race Chicago, right? Could that have presented an opportunity to, to either Danny or
Ross.
Yeah, Ross. So that there's other considerations as well, right? Like you don't want to cost one of your own a potential win. Now you have to be thinking like really positively. But here's where I'll say I think ultimately this is going towards, and it kind of was to your first question. is I think drivers like Shane, who's still young, and not that Kamui's not young, but it now I think the consideration is a second career in NASCAR. You know, could it open doors for a part two to a career to take a run at a championship or two in NASCAR? And I think the answer is absolutely. I think absolutely there'll be some thought. Um, and to even be more aggressive, why couldn't NASCAR be, you know, on the consideration set of younger drivers internationally? I know in talking to our own family, who in Japan is vested also in driver development, we're starting to, you know, now that we're doing this, and now that they have a better education and understanding of what we're doing, we're talking about sharing seats globally. We've never had those types of conversations before. So one, it's a reflection of the respect that the sport is getting. It's a reflection on the respect that TRD is getting relative to our investment and commitment to driver development, and things like again what's happened with Shane and what's going to be happening with Kamui.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
One thing I'd add, Dustin, just is remember Marcus Ambrose. He essentially was the first Shane. He didn't win his first NASCAR race, but he created, to Dave's point, the second career in NASCAR and raced with us for quite a few years as well. So
Great point, Tyler. Great.
Thank you, Tyler.
Thanks. Next up, we have Lee.
Thank you, and thanks for joining us, gentlemen. So I got to follow up with that, David. Is SVG somebody you'd be interested in for the Toyota camp? You got plenty of seats now, adding legacy, and Denny's got room to expand.
Lee,
Start
that's
tap
a great
dancing,
question.
Dave.
Well, let's say this: we still have a relationship with Shane, and one of our colleagues reached out and made sure he was aware of how proud we were, and that we're wishing him well. We have a dialogue with Shane about future stuff on the sports car side. On this side of the house, it wouldn't surprise me at all, Lee, if somewhere along the way he ended up in a NASCAR Cup car. Wouldn't surprise me.
Okay, and Corey Heim, you mentioned him earlier, and my first introduction to him was when he was a tour guide over at the Performance Center. He really impressed me. Just, I mean, he's like the total package. Just, you know, could be a host in a situation like that. Could get behind a race car and do magical things. Just talk about his progression, because, you know, he kind of went back and forth, and now with a full-time opportunity, he's certainly making the most of it.
So that's a perfect question for my teammate and colleague Tyler Gibbs, who really was critical in giving Corey these opportunities. He and Jack and Trent know him well. And Tyler, I'd love for you to take that one.
yeah, sure. I think that we've been really proud of Corey. He's bought into the program. Lee, you saw that at the Performance Center. He's there on a regular basis, but you've seen him do what we've asked him to do. Last season, he probably was capable of racing a whole season, but based on the way that the program went together, made the most of the 15 or so starts that he had last year. And so he came in this year ready to race for a championship. We had tried to put him into that place. He was patient at the beginning of the season, and has just continued to put points in the bank. I think what he did with Kyle on Saturday was really tremendous. Again, you think about someone Corey's age and experience level racing, literally nose to tail with Kyle, passing Kyle back. You know, you see Kyle pass these guys, and they're unable frequently to go back after him. And so to see the way that Corey raced this past weekend, to see the maturity that he's racing with, taking the points when he needs to, taking the wins when he has the opportunity, really just very, very proud of him. His ceiling is unlimited in NASCAR at this point, and we are very, very glad to have him in our family.
And one more question on, finding these drivers, because nobody's, I just love what you guys do with the young drivers and giving them opportunities. Taylor Reimer's going to be making her debut shortly. And, we're finally, you know, we've seen Bell, we've seen we've seen the long list. And what was it about Taylor? I mean, I've interviewed her. She's a college graduate. She could be a professional cheerleader, professional driver. But what was it that stood out? Maybe above a Kaylee or one of the other ladies that are in the pipeline.
Yeah, she's one of several ladies in our pipeline, right? You've seen Tony Breidinger. Tony has been racing in ARCA this season. She's made a couple of truck starts. She's done a really, really good job in terms of just, again, becoming more and more consistent as she moves forward. Yeah, we like Taylor. Again, Taylor raced on Saturday night and over the weekend in her midget. Did a really nice job. I think she finished fourth on Saturday night. People like Jade Abedisian, who won on Saturday night, again, are just the right mindset. They come in, they work hard. We have an opportunity, and we're excited to give them that opportunity. It is about reps. It is about seeing different tracks, seeing different drivers on different tracks. And so we're excited for Taylor to get her opportunity.
Super. Thank you so much. Have a great week, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks. We'll have time for a few more. We'll go next to Jim.
Hey, first, I just want to say a quick hello to Pam. I haven't seen you in forever. Hope you're doing well.
Thanks,
for David,
Jim. Same to you.
Thank you. For David, kind of a follow-up to what Dustin and Lee were asking a little bit. You talked about the opportunities that exist now to perhaps share seats globally within the, Toyota. What to kind of expand on that a little bit, has the success and what's taken place with the various international drivers venturing over to NASCAR, has that opened a new door for you guys in terms of what your role is in all of that as far as an OEM and how to, I guess, best capitalize it, the opportunities that exist?
Yeah, Jim, what really where it starts is it has helped open a dialogue that we haven't had in the past. The way that Toyota manages motorsports globally is what I would refer to as a decentralized model. That being that Akio Toyota, Koji Sato, the new president, recognizes that the North American marketplace from a motorsports perspective, from a production vehicle perspective, is a different marketplace than Europe, than Asia. And their fundamental, the philosophy is to give us the autonomy that we need to manage our participation, decide where we should race, how we race, how we manage our assets, including drivers. And so what that's done over decades is kind of build silos around each distributorship, each country. And while we had professional relationships and some technology sharing and all, we've never really talked about drivers, and those seemingly have been really kind of funneled either one direction or another. And so again, the Kamui effect or the Shane effect has certainly caused us now to open a channel of communication. And the other big part of that, to be fair, is we also manage Lexus's participation in racing. And we're really excited for what's going on in that camp. We're fighting for our first GT championship. And so that, the drivers that we have there, best in class, best in the world. We hope to get one or two of them into some NASCAR opportunities as well. So, all of those things have, kind of been additive, and again, have simply helped us open up more communications globally, and created, kind of what I would describe as a pyramid, looking at placing all of our various racing somewhere on that pyramid, and looking at the stable of drivers and athletes that we have, and seeing if there's some organic, potential fits to exchange and trade resources and drivers, and that's pretty cool. That's pretty exciting.
From the other side of the coin, you've talked, obviously you guys have the fewest number of cup entries, and you've talked about having, problems in the past of where to put drivers. But has this issue or phenomenon also brought you, and maybe even Tyler, where you get now texts and calls from other drivers in the series that you anticipate, like, hey, can I get a chance in one of the NASCAR Cup cars? Because it's not like you have 1,000 of them sitting around, right? But is how has the interest in general from your own drivers peaked as well?
It definitely, and not to be um, not to be too not to overstate the situation, but we've been fortunate enough to get a lot of interest, well before this, from drivers and teams that would shock and surprise, right? And it has to do again with, I think, the respect that we're accorded for how we go racing, just as a manufacturer, and I think for us that's something that we're incredibly proud of, and it's given us opportunities to to be discriminating in making sure that we have the right partners. You guys again have heard Tyler and I talk about this ad nauseum, but it's not just about numbers. It will never be just about the numbers. It's about um, doing business with partners that you share the same values with, as corny as that sounds. But this is a tough sport, and you lose far more races than you win, and you have to have a level of trust and respect, for each other down to the driver level in order to succeed. So again, the text, the interest, are still coming. Maybe they're coming from some more unusual places of origin, and that's, again, it's exciting, and stepping away from it. It's not about Toyota. It's about NASCAR, and 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 building more and more credibility, exposure.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Right. We'll take one more, this for Grace, please.
Awesome, thank you. I just have one NHRA question. Obviously, you guys are talking about the 200th win that you got, but Toyota is, 1-2 in the top field point standings, and I think there's 2, Toyota funny cars in the top 3 in the standings. So just how would you evaluate Toyota's position and, performance in NHRA right now? Just looking at the season, are the results ideal, or, are there things that Toyota wants to do better?
Well, one of our core values is continuous improvement. It's called Kaizen in 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 Japanese, and I really believe we have been hard at it, the past couple of years. Um, as Kelly pointed out, with one of our championship teams of, Kalita, they kind of lost their way a little bit. So, what I love about our team, and the folks that we have on these programs is they're always searching for improvement. We're you know motorsports is humbling, and it's important that you never think that you're better than anybody else, because if you are, it's momentary. And so, really 2023 is shaping up, I think for a special season all around. And, I mentioned the current regular season points leaders on the NASCAR side, but as you pointed out, we're also leading the champion, one of the two in NHRA. We're leading in IMSA, GTD category. We're leading in, ARCA National, ARCA East, USAC or Power Eye Midgets. I mean, we're having a really special season, and it's a tribute. It's an absolute reflection on this team, and it's a reflection on Toyota and the commitment that we have to North American motorsports and how vital that is to help shape our brand and continue to build brand awareness for the great cars and trucks that we build. So it's all going together. Gotta put it in perspective. Still a lot of racing left. The wheels could fall off at any moment. So it's just a function of racing.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
Thanks so much, everyone. David and Tyler, thanks so much for joining us. We'll have a Dropbox link with the recording